Welcome to the podcast. I'm Mike Bordnero, and today's authentic falconer is Noah Drever. Thank you for coming on, Noah.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent. So he is actually the managing partner and COO of Drever Capital Management. They actually build multi-family homes for the senior living. Is that correct?
That's correct. Workforce affordable housing for seniors.
Yeah, and they look like luxury senior housing. I've seen
That's
that.
correct.
Very nice stuff. He's also a certified pilot and a master falconer. So we're going to jump into a bunch more about that, of course. We're going to talk about his current bird he's training right now, which is a Siberian Goshawk, and his other falconry experiences, getting to where he's at right now, and also a little bit about how he recently made the local news in a bad way regarding his falcon muse. So let's jump into it. I just wanted to ask you easiest question. How did you get into falconry?
So I've always been attracted to raptors. As a kid, there's a video called the Trials of Life, VHS. They had a great scene of orcas, but then they also had a scene of Harris hawks working together in the Sonora Desert. And that prompted my excitement. I wasn't, the most academically inclined kid or student. I've always taken testing untimed, yet finishing first to play recess early. So I was sent to more of one of those reform schools on the East Coast. The school I went to is called Millbrook. And it's the only school in the United States with a fully accredited zoo. So
wow.
part of the program was, you did some community service, and I was a curator at the zoo. And naturally, I gravitated towards raptors, and I took care of a one-eyed prairie falcon and red-tailed hawks. Subsequently, the red-tailed hawks looked at me as a threat or sized me up, and they attacked me, and I ended up releasing them from the zoo, and that was an issue. But as the lead gentleman who ran the zoo said, he had a bonding experience as the birds 3 days later came back to him, and he put them back in their pen. So it was after that I decided I was so good with raptors after that of course I had to jump into this.
That's a pretty unique first experience, releasing them back into the wild accidentally. That's pretty cool too. So when did you, or how did you actually get a sponsor? So
I joined the Maryland Falconers Association when I was living in Washington, D.C., and worked with some Harris hawks and a Dotson and Dachshund, and that was a pretty neat experience. And then when I moved back here in 2013, I found a sponsor to officially help me through. And sponsors come by few and far between here in Northern California, and he's just 10 minutes up, and he was number 2 in the FBI office. And his first answer was no way, and then we started chatting. He realized I wasn't that weird of a guy, and he took me on.
Wow,
and
that's great.
Yeah, he oversaw me. But if you have the passion bug for this, like everybody knows that's listening to this, you do all your own research, and as much as you can, it's a passion.
Yeah, I like to ask falconers at every stage, when your sponsor tells you and is training you, a lot of things go over your head. What is something that he specifically told you that was ingrained in your mind, and maybe you didn't realize it at first, but it's just knowledge and a piece of advice you'd probably want every falconer to know? Yeah,
when we first trapped a small red tail, he guessed the weight, but the wings were out, and its feet were moving, and I was like, "What do you want me to do?" And he said, "Don't be a little wimp and get in there." I put my hand in there and wham, I got grabbed. And I learned real fast, be smart.
Okay. That is a good piece of advice. And,
Go in slow, and more importantly, if anything, ask for advice. Absolutely. I ask everybody for advice. Yeah. People that are going to listen to this podcast, I've probably asked them for advice. And I am a master falconer, theoretically, whatever that means.
I am too, theoretically. Yeah.
But there's everybody seems to know a lot more, so I just keep asking.
Yeah, and that's the whole point of this podcast, is just to get more information people can share.
Yeah,
I appreciate your time. What was your first falconry bird?
So I had a red-tailed hawk named Cadence. She was a great bird, sweet as can be, awful hunter. we did this routine, and she started leading me on these posts, so she learned the routine. But I remember I got her weight down, probably not as much as I should have got her weight down naturally, like most people make the mistake. I didn't want her to starve under my care and watch. Yeah. So I remember I kicked up a jackrabbit, and swear to God, and black-tailed jackrabbits are few and far between here. I kicked up a jackrabbit and it went right under the pole. And she just looked down and watched it for 20 minutes. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, mother of God, this can't be what this sport's all about. And then all of a sudden the jackrabbit took off. And it was after that I did have some success. But she got a few mice and a few baby jackrabbits, but okay. She never really wanted to bind to something a little bit larger.
Gotcha. Now, it's funny you mentioned that in the sport of falconry, when you're at that stage where you're trying to connect the bird with hunting, there's a moment where you meet kind of like the brick wall where you're watching it do nothing, and then there's a moment where it clicks within the bird.
Yeah.
Have you been able to correlate that moment or what it takes to get to that spot throughout your training process?
Yeah. So I knew I wanted to learn how to imprint a bird. It's just something I always wanted to do and I always wanted a goshawk. Just always wanted a goshawk. I didn't know there's Siberian and Finnish versions, and I just knew of the goshawk with the red eyes that you read in some of these raptor books growing up. What a cool looking bird. And with an imprint, with my imprinting experience, I see that connection happen, and that's a lot of fun. The second time I imprinted a Siberian goshawk, that I was more, I was ready for that connection to be made. And it happened pretty much clockwork as the first one. And if anybody doesn't do falconry, you take notes. Just absolutely take notes. And I went back through my book. I didn't remember anything from 5 years ago. Went back through my book, and it was pretty much within the week in terms of the collect. Yeah, it was pretty incredible. Awesome. They follow the same pattern.
Okay. Yeah, that's great advice. Definitely a log journal.
Yeah.
Important because I forget everything that I did yesterday. I can imagine
I'm with you.
The exact stuff. So I saw you on Instagram. Your Instagram handle is Siberian Goshawk, and you got some really good videos. And falconers in general, always struggle with flying the hawk, looking for game and filming at the same time. Are you doing all those at once?
Yeah.
And what's your setup?
So. I first put on a falconry when I was dating another gal. I put on a falconry, video. I was just so happy. As anybody catches game, you're so excited. I mean, you might put a 3-hour hike in before I catch something. I mean, you're so happy, and this is highly. So I put it on my normal Instagram handle, and instantly, I had everybody all these gals jump out and, strangle me. And I didn't want to look like a psycho. Sure. So at that point I realized, well, this isn't for everybody. While this is my passion, they just see the blood and the guts. They don't see what went into it. All the time, pain, and sweat. And so I set up an Instagram handle, and I use that Instagram handle really for me. It's like my highlight reel. For sure, I watch it myself. I'm probably the #1 fan of my own videos, but I just wear a GoPro on my head. And now that they have the stabilization component for the GoPros, it's a lot better. But I just have a system like that.
Oh, nice. So it's the GoPro 8, then the newest one?
Yeah, I have the 6.
Okay.
But I would get the 8. That will be my next purchase. Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, I saw that, and I didn't think it was a GoPro because GoPros, like you said, I've only seen the non-stabilized image, and it's just shaky, and if you don't have a gimbal, it just looks like you're running around. These are
relatively mediocre videos in terms of like a high-quality video, but you do learn about. I did have to learn about Premiere CC film editing, which is not how my brain works at all. But I spent a fair amount of time learning that, just so I could kind of make those videos more streamlined. And how I now tune down the music or the sound of the actual catch. Try to phase that out, but I don't put music to it. I just want to keep it as, if somebody wants to get into falconry, they need to understand what they're going to get into. Yeah. Like, there's no way around it. I mean, you are catching things, as you know, and it's not always a pretty sight.
No, it's a shock for anyone in the beginning who's not a hunter.
Especially a jackrabbit or a rabbit. Yes. They sound like screaming kids, but
exactly.
Yeah.
So your current bird is Sasha, Siberian Goss. And this is your second Siberian, right?
Yeah, smaller. She's a fair amount smaller than my first one.
Oh, okay. And have you noticed any differences as far as you did the same training pattern? like you said with your notes, differences just in bird from your first snow
Yeah.
personality and hunting.
Yeah, there's I went through the notes, but I spent a lot of time. My bird stayed with me indoors. She came to the office every day. I took her everywhere. She rode in the car. I think I was overkill on how much acclimation human day-to-day acclimation I put on the birds. I've heard that some people can put her in front of a TV, the bird in front of a TV or in some type of circumstance. I carried her everywhere for 100 days, and the last 20 days were painful, to say the least, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And so that was a little bit overkill. I think going forward, I would manage my life a little better.
Okay.
But they followed a very similar pattern. First bird I had 100. I had 25 bagged live rabbits that looked like jackrabbits that I bought. Don't ask me how I got them. And I had 100 pheasant and 50 quail. And I put her on bagged pheasant. And then this last bird, I had 2 bagged pheasant. And then the rest I used a lure machine. And I got the same result. So going forward, I'm not a big fan of killing bagged animals. It just doesn't work for me. So I was happy to see that she was able to make that connection without that use.
Oh, that's pretty good. I do know that obviously success at the hunt is necessary. If you don't have game, you get a bagged animal.
Yeah.
But that lure machine worked just as good.
Yeah.
For you too. So that's pretty cool. So how? Well, you already told me you've always wanted a Siberian, so that's pretty much.
Well, I could tell you why I wanted a Goshawk and then a Siberian.
Yeah.
I initially wanted 2 Harris hawks. I love that idea. I love hunting as a pair. I wanted a dog. I wanted an intelligent bird, and then I realized that and I have a buddy that had 2 birds. 2 birds really are, maybe you think differently, but almost twice the amount of work or 3 times the amount of work as one. Yeah. That was what was told to me. So, I'm limited with time, like we all are. But I'm fairly limited with time, and I wanted just to specialize in one thing. And my goal is, I'm working pretty hard. If I can get away 3 days during the week and then all weekend, but 3 days during the week, I will try to do it in the evening, right after work. But I need to get to the hunting field, do my loop for an hour or 2, and catch game and make her successful. So I wanted a bird that can do that in a short period of time. And the Goshawk, despite all the pains and challenges that comes with handling them, seemed to be the right gun of choice, so to speak.
Sure. When you mentioned the pains of making mistakes, especially with an imprint, was there something that you had to try and recorrect in the process in the early stages, or?
Oh, I've made every mistake. I've made so many mistakes I can't even begin to tell you. But I've had that bird just bind to my face. Not the second one, but the first one, in front of people. And actually, I was I was really close with Robin Williams, and so Robin used to come here sitting right where you are, and he really liked the red tail, and that's when I got the Goshawk. And it was right. This is right before he died, but. After he died, his wife Susan came over with her kids, and I want to do a quick little display. And here comes this bird. I let go. The Jess has slipped out. I looked at her, and she made it. And my dad's there, and I go, "Don't move." And she gets down in that snake position with the head out, and all of a sudden she does a quick reaction, and that bird is on my face. And you know how your face bleeds. Yeah. But anyway, you hear her scream. She runs off, and anyway, that was a mistake. Never let go of the Jesses.
I bet the kids were like, "This is the coolest thing ever."
Yeah, they're like, "That guy's not very smart, but this looks amazing."
Yeah. Did they ever ask to come back?
No, they never came back after that.
I never heard from again. Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So
tell me a little bit about your routine, your daily routine with the bird, as far as when you're not training, when your days off, and how many days.
Sure. So I used to really overhandle birds. Okay. And I talked to a lot of guys that told me what they like. Don't kill yourself, in my opinion. If you're new to falconry, don't kill yourself in terms of what your bird wants. Don't think because your dog wants comfort that you need to be with your bird all the time. Actually, it's not always great. So during the molt, I let her go. I used to weather her, but I have a decent sized mew. She gets great light. I go in there, give her food and water, but I let her really sit it out. Then, hunting season comes, and I try to get her on game as soon as possible. So I'll get her to wait, and I'll do just as long as I get a recall from her. One recall from a creance, that's it. One recall I go for. And it's about 20 yards. I don't go for some 100-yard recall. I just knock it out to make sure she comes back.
Uh-huh.
And if she comes back at me with binds in my leg, not great, but I'll take it. At least she's angry with me. She'll come back, and then I'll take her on the hunt. And what I found with my birds is that second, third, fourth, fifth year, and I've never gone past the fifth year, unfortunately, but fifth year they're each year they're ready to go much more than the first. But the first year takes time, as you know, when you're imprinting. But the second and third year, like this second year, my bird was on it, but she's smaller. She hunts about. I'm better with weight now. I talked to the guy Roy Lupton. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Okay.
Out of the UK. He told me to bring the bird's weight even farther down than I expected. And my bird was just on jacks and not letting go, and made everybody happier. Unfortunately, she grabbed a few deer, but the last deer she grabbed, she punctured it with her helix, and it pulled the whole sheath off.
Yeah, I saw a picture of that. That was pretty rough.
That was from a deer.
Oh my god!
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's healing up just nicely. So, thank God.
Yeah. So she's done for quite a while.
Well, she's done until hunting season. It's grown back. So that happened.
Oh, it has grown back.
Yeah,
oh,
that
awesome.
happened in November.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And is she a hard imprint? Did you feed her in front of her?
No, so I don't do the feeding. I feed her now after she in her first molt I'll start feeding her.
Yeah.
Second molt is her second. I will feed her, but when I start bringing her weight down, I don't do that.
Okay.
I don't feed her from the fist. Every once in a while I'll try that. Then she'll. I swear to God, the next time she flies back to me, she'll you gotta tuck your hat down, your head down, because she might skip that glove and come right for you. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah, but you just start to learn how they maneuver. And she hits my glove hard. You just kind of move your glove out of your face. You'll know when she's coming at you. But as the relationship develops, I found out in their second and then third year, they get a routine down, and they're less aggressive towards me and less vocal as well.
Okay. So what's the technique then to not have her bind to you? You don't feed her on the fist. So if she, let's say she catches game, you let her eat up, and then
first year in the first 10, I let her. First year I learned this from Moglich, and Mark might, I don't want to misquote him in any way, shape, or form, but the first year I want to get her head developed correctly. So from what I understand, and I've never flown a North American, but these Siberians take a little bit longer to develop. So I keep her way up a little bit higher. She's still catching game, and I let her. It's one and done. So she might fly, a few slips, catches a jack. I let her eat it whole time. I'd never go for multiple game in the first year. Maybe at the end of the year I might, depending on her success. Second year is when we start going for multiple bags.
Okay.
And in that case, she's really in it to win it. Less interested in eating. This goss is more interesting than my neck. She won't eat until I get there, which is surprising.
Wow.
Yeah, she'll sit there, and oftentimes she'll just sit on top of it, holding the rabbit. She's holding on like she means it, but she's not really going for it. And then I can cut it open, and let her eat the heart and the lungs. But this bird seems less interested in that. She'll go for cold rabbit over a warm rabbit, which is I don't know what I did there, but seems to be the case for this one.
That sounds like you got the system down, though. That sounds.
Yeah, trial.
She's waiting on for you, so that's.
She waits on for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. What are some new upcoming challenges you see, like a new game or with Sasha this next coming season?
So every year I'm like the fisherman that says he should have been here last year or yesterday, but it seems like harder and harder to find jackrabbits. I mean, just harder, and I've been seeing more coyotes out there. I mean, they'll even follow me. So when I see that, I'll keep the bird. I'll put a leash on her, and go back to the car. But I am finding it harder and harder to find game in Northern California where we are now, and in fields. I need to find more fields. So I'm thinking about putting a package together with coronavirus, it's going to make it a little bit more difficult, but packaged together with the whole rigmarole. I'm a master falconer, but my day job is I build affordable senior housing. I'm not a hunter. They don't want to hear that. I'm not a hunter. I fly this bird, and I'd like to be able to walk the fringe and let my bird fly freely. I'm not saying I'm hunting game on your property hard, and then give them the picture booklet of me teaching kids, Sasha with a flower in front of her, when she's 25 days old, and just trying to show that this bird is, it's not a weapon or a danger. Yeah. So I'm just trying to appeal to those people, because that's where the jacks are. It's usually here in Northern California, on those farms, that there's additional food for them to feed, or at least irrigation and some capacity for water.
Okay, that's a good idea. Definitely. I mean, try and scout out more fields.
I got a whole mailing campaign going.
So you have a couple videos. I saw a dog in.
Mm-hmm.
And are they hunting partners? I've only seen like one or two videos.
So I say they are. My poodle Clover, she's a miniature black poodle, very manly dog. I am allergic to dogs, but this dog is great. She loves being there, but she's found one jackrabbit in 4 years. Yeah. But she chases after all of them once they go, and she was hunting pretty well with my bird initially, and then my bird grabbed her a few times hard. But my dog never attacked her back, so the bird bound to her face once, held her in a puddle. I got him off, and that's the only time I'd ever, be forceful with the bird. But that dog, that dog is important. But after that, she kind of stays back. So I am looking for a little bit of a larger breed. And the only reason why my bird attacked the dog has nothing to do with mistaken game. Naturally, she wears a orange vest, but she's frustrated. And the worst thing about being frustrated for any falconer who wants to try is if your bird's a little bit overweight and you fly it and she's hunting and you do a perfect slip and she misses it, it's still your fault. She doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's always your fault.
Definitely.
There's something humbling about that.
You have to find the balance, and you got to try and keep them happy, but it's a good experience, and learning every single time you go out. So I wanted to ask you, you were in the news, maybe you can shine some light on how that came to be about.
Yeah, so I moved to an area called Belvedere, California, and it's kind of known for country club politics, and it's a little bit of a dated, older political system, so to speak. And naturally, cards face up, I tried to build an 8x8 Mew. I could do it almost over a weekend. And I was gone. I was in Texas getting ready to build one of the senior communities, or at least a groundbreaking for it. And my neighbor flagged me, and she knew the former mayor and councilwoman had her over, and it became an issue. So I halted construction, if you want to call it construction, and I would try to go through the appropriate channel. What happened was a little bit screwed up. So you need to get a permit for any structure, whether it's a shed or anything. Any addition, you need a permit. I think if you redo your roof or your floors, you need a permit in the city. So it's fairly restrictive. So I want to go through the appropriate channel, but there is a little bit of a loophole where you can build a chicken coop. You still get designed, but you can build a chicken coop. Where the city of Belvedere wanted to deny me for falconry. So what they found out, and this is really my neighbor pushing this agenda, who later is now on my side because I blocked my stairs, which she uses for her access for her gardeners.
Chess moves.
Just silly stuff. Your life's short. Don't get involved in these type of wars, please. Anybody. But they try to block the. They for some reason took the approach that it was easier to block falconry in Belvedere, thus Marin County, than it was just to block me on a Mew. And that's a real interesting. They've bullied people a long time, and I know people listening to this podcast have seen that. I put a lot of time, resources into this, much more than I think most people would, in money, to fight this. And I knew they couldn't win on something like this because you can't really ban falconry. Falconry is legal, and where the issue and my recommendation for people, if you find yourself in this position, is I tried to do the good Boy Scout approach, and I worked for 3 months providing information to the planning and development coordinator, Irene Borba. And I realized that she started taking all my findings and turning it around against me. Because you said this, that means this doesn't apply. And I had her on the phone with Department of Fish and Game, who was extremely helpful in this case with me. They clarified that 8 other falconers are reside in Marin County, or 8 in total in Marin County. Falconer's been a part of Marin County. Here's my credentials, yada yada yada. But her approach was that that was not her interpretation of Marin County codes. And then I talked to a gentleman at Marin Wild Care, which is a pretty well-known establishment here, not an NGO here in Marin County. And the word on the street, and again, this is not confirmed, so I can't say this, but the word on the street was that this was being driven by higher political beings, and she was just really moving a chess piece, a pawn being moved here. So it was just really interesting that we still live in a world where backwards politics can take hold. But my only recommendation is, if anybody finds himself in that situation, having the media was huge. So let me say one last thing. I hope I'm not ranting too long.
No.
Okay. What?
No.
So I had a letter from the attorney, which was marginally ineffective. Cards face up. They talked to Department of Fish and Game, and they also talked to Marin Humane, who developed the codes, and then Marin County, and they were still hell bent on saying that their interpretations of codes were different. And the codes say you can't have an ostrich, an emu, or a rhea, which are land-based birds. And somehow they said, well, we're going to extrapolate. That means you can't have a falcon or a hawk. So we knew it wasn't there. But I didn't want to embarrass anybody, but I brought in the Marin IJ, which is a local publication, and I found a reporter that had from the East Bay that had kind of an issue with some of these hoity-toity, snotty politics. Yeah. And I sent him all the emails. Said, here's all the emails she put in writing. Here's 3 months of correspondence. Please just take a look if you get a chance. And he read it. And he's like, this is BS. And we can put a story and put Belvedere on notice, but not based on you, because you want to get your dock renovated and things that people don't care about. Yeah. Based on really falconry and their threat to put you in jail, $1,000 a day fine, and to take your bird, which is really the key piece. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yesterday of all times, the article was written today or pushed out today, but the reporter calls me, goes 11:30 a.m. He goes, hey, so bad news. I called the city manager, Craig, I forget his name, but the city manager, and their stance is that falconry is illegal. Just falconry is illegal. And when I asked them about why those emails are being leaked to your neighbor, they said, well, by accident we sent it. It was leaked to a councilwoman who accidentally sent it to your neighbor. Just some BS answer. Okay. But after that, especially what's happening in the political climate, no city wants attention right now, in my opinion. He called back 2 hours later and goes, we actually overturned our decision, and falconry is now legal in Belvedere. So it was, I got to say, that reporter did more for me than any noble or I'd say conventional direction of how these things are usually handled. Yeah. So if you find yourself in that position and you don't mind getting some press, which press is always bad, you never want press about you, good or bad, in my opinion, and you're willing to be blackballed with the city at a later date, to stand up for something that you believe is right, then I would get a reporter. I would get a reporter engaged, but only after they kind of nail the coffin by putting some things in writing that you can send them for proof, because they do have to fact check things. Yeah,
it's wow, that's quite a story just for a mew. You want to put a mew in your house?
Yeah, it became a mew, and then it became falconry's illegal. Which would have been problematic for all falconers, but especially people in Marin County. The last thing I want to do is ever jeopardize a falconry status for anybody besides myself. My problem is nobody else's problem in that case, but unfortunately got to the point where I really had to rectify it, and it got done. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, let's move on to another topic. Sorry. No, that's fine. That's quite a story. Where do you think falconry will take you next? Your next bird, your next goal? Yeah.
As you get older, you figure out what makes you happy in life, and things have changed. My, birds are a part of my life, and I'm tempted to sell my home, and after this all gets resolved, but sell my home and eventually move to West Marin, somewhere out there where I have a little bit more, it's kind of like your spread.
You gonna stay in California after all that?
I gotta stay in California. I tried to move the company to Texas, and I had a fair amount of pushback. And most of the things I do is in Texas. But I would like to have several birds, and I need some time, but I would like to raise some kids. I'd like to have a few dogs, real hunting dogs, and have some birds, and that includes a Harris hawk. And I've always wanted to have a peregrine.
Yeah.
Or really, they're the ones I've met have been so sweet. Just such a cool bird.
So I want to ask a couple tips, maybe some falconry books or videos that you really like.
Yeah.
Something you'd recommend.
So for falconry videos, for tips, there's a few guys. There's a guy named Connor. I forget Connor's last name, but he's down in Southern California. And
Bucali?
yeah.
Yeah.
And he's just smart as can be when it comes to this stuff. And he's always seems to be fairly progressive on what he's doing.
His videos are amazing.
Yeah,
He's
pushing
really
the
good
envelope. So I like that.
photographer.
And then there's a guy named Tyler. I'm going to butcher this, Sladen or
Yep.
Sladen.
Sladen.
Yep. And then he has a friend named Chris. I think I kind of bunch them all together, but I don't even know if they're all friends. But they seem to be fairly progressive in this sport. So I ask them about dogs and just advice.
Yeah.
And they've been great. With no alternate agenda to push. Just truly, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Try this. Don't. And Connor's been great. Where he kind of shows you his war stories. I think he imprinted a red tail one time, and he gave me that story. Like, listen, buck up. I had a hell-bent red tail that attacked me once. I was like, Jesus. Yeah. So he more than gets it and sympathizes. I'd say that. And then I've been starting to reach out to UK falconers, like Rory Lupton.
Mm-hmm.
How cool is this sport that you could find somebody that you kind of, I wouldn't say was a hero, but I'd watch these people that I thought were, famous in my world, and I got the number and I just called him up and he picked up the phone. Yeah. And I told him what I was doing. He gave me all this advice. We talked for like 45 minutes. Like I can't do that about baseball or basketball or something, in that respect. But so that's what I think is unique about this sport, that you can really pick up the phone and people are willing to give that advice. In terms of books, I've McDermott, the imprint recipe, read that probably 40 times, and then I forget his name. Is it Dale? Out of North Carolina, he has these goshawks, and he has a book. Okay. I can't remember his name, but African American gentleman that just does mostly Siberian goshawks, finishing Siberian, and he has a great book. I love it. I've read that a million times, but that's about it.
Great.
I'd say one just to state for the record, there's great literature out there, but if you can pick up the phone and call somebody. Yeah. It's 20 times more valuable.
And then we're in 2020. Just go on Instagram and follow some of these people.
Oh yeah.
And I mean that's how you can reach out to. That's how I found you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
who's that gal? She's the Eagle Falconer. It's like Lauren.
Oh yeah.
Somebody.
Lauren
Yeah.
Mago.
Yeah. I saw her on 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
And then we're friends on. It's funny. I had a therapist.
Nice person, yeah.
Therapist for a few years, and she goes, there's this girl on 60 Minutes. You have to meet her. You guys are meant for each other. And I go, well, why would you say that? She goes, well, she likes birds just like you. And I go, well, thank you, Miss Therapist. Yeah, I appreciate it. Anyway, then we became friends on Instagram, which again, that in any other respect, I think falconry allows you to do so where you wouldn't have that option later.
Yeah. No, I've met Lauren. We've worked together on a few things, and she's a great person.
Yeah. She's incredible what she's done with eagles.
Very, kind-spirited and talented person.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Good for her.
It's pretty cool to run into people like that, especially in the sport. So, so let's say you could have any bird you want. What is your favorite bird? Like a falconry bird or
I love goshawks hands down, but I'm pretty. There's one guy that's doing these hybrids, which I know are kind of frowned upon, but like goshawk, red tail hybrids that have been have you seen that on YouTube?
I haven't seen that.
Oh no. Yeah, he does all these hybrids, like a ferruginous red tail, which kind of sounds interesting. But the red tail goshawk was, and then they had a Harris hawk goshawk, which seems to be conflicting in terms of brains and breaks or ball, bravado, so to speak. But the red tail goshawks had a lot of success. I reached out to him and he was responsive, and he's had a lot of success with that bird. So if I could have any bird, I'd love to have a golden eagle.
Yeah.
If I could fly it somewhere and not take somebody's dog. And if I can't keep my bird in Belvedere, I'm not bringing a golden eagle. That's not going to fly. And or a peregrine jeer, and I would probably go with a hybrid variety.
Yeah.
I don't know much about gyr. Sounds like you have a gyr, but I hear they can just take off if they have the space. They'll just go.
Yeah, they breed the gyrs mainly for their size and their hardiness with the peregrines, so they're bigger and they can just take bigger, harder hits in the air. So it's a really incredible combination.
Yeah, how wild.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, being a goshawker, I've never seen a falcon fly live. Never
Really?
seen it. Yeah, I've always wanted to. I've met a bunch of guys in Texas that all fly peregrines. I've even trapped them down in South Padre Island with the Peregrine Fund. That was real neat. But I've never once seen a real. I've never seen a falconer fly a peregrine or a falcon.
Mm-hmm. I'm also limited in that. I've seen falcons fly. I have never seen an impressive falconry hunt with the peregrine.
Yeah.
Stooping and just smashing a duck in midair.
Where you hear the click.
Yeah. I haven't been out with enough falconers, but
yeah,
I've seen the videos and they're impressive. Just that little teardrop and they're just
incredible
through the air. But yeah.
Well, those videos are terrible to watch because they can't get it in focus.
Yeah, it's like
how could you?
shaking the whole way because they're 200 miles an hour. So what do you get from falconry? What is it that kind of connects you to it?
Yeah, so we I'm sure everybody that has their own experience, but I'm a pretty active falconer. I think the joke is that I say ho a lot on the videos, and I also run. Like I run, I put miles in. I put 102 miles in the month of December alone from my Apple Watch. 102 miles in just December alone, hiking, and I was doing on average between 5 and 6 mile hikes. I mean, through pretty high brush. So I like the physical element. I love hunting. I don't really personally. I don't shoot guns. I have a bow, but I just I'm not worth a darn with it. But I love fishing where you see like an eddy, you fly fishing and you're in a creek and you're working behind it. So with the hunting element and seeing where the jacks are, what vegetation they move to depending on the season, part of the season. They start off in more of the green brush in the hot elements, in September in the fall. Then you got to go to the dry brush, but your bird starts to pick up on where they are. And when your bird comes out, it starts getting more excited. Like she's ready to go when she sees that brush, and it's fairly sporadic. So I love that, and being outside, no matter, we all have our stresses in life. I have more stresses with business that have been, challenging to say the least, and it can kind of keep you, one eye open at night. But it's a good hobby and a good sport, where when you go out there, all you care about is finding a rabbit, and you're totally ticked off if you don't find a jackrabbit. That's your only care in the world. If you don't find it, you're upset with yourself. And everything else kind of quiets down.
Yeah.
That's your answer.
That's perfect. Yeah. Well, great. So, we talked a lot about your Siberian Goshawk, and we talked about your troubles and your faults, and then of course your triumphs. And I think the triumphs are always going to outweigh your faults because that's how you get there. Everyone's going to fail until you succeed. But I appreciate you sharing the time and the experiences with us, and hopefully someone can learn something if they're interested in the Siberian Goss. They know where to find you if they have a quick question on Instagram.
Yeah,
just go on there and.
Yeah, please. If you're interested in learning more about the Siberian, all my mistakes, I'm happy to share them. And shoot me a message on Instagram, and I'll shoot you my number, and we can talk.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
I'm excited to see how this works out.
Yeah. Thank you.
Nice.